The Constitution, as first drafted, had almost none of the individual rights you'd expect. No free speech, no right to a lawyer, no protection from unreasonable searches. None of it. And that omission almost sank the whole thing. Because the freedoms you probably think of as the most American of all, they weren't in the original plan. They were bolted on afterward as the price of getting the Constitution approved at all. That add-on is the Bill of Rights. 10 amendments, fewer than 500 words. And most people can't name half of them. So let's fix that. Here's what you actually get. Rewind to the Constitution getting ratified. There was a fight. One side, the Federalists, said a list of rights was unnecessary. The government only had the powers the Constitution gave it, so why list what it couldn't do? They even called it dangerous. If you write down some rights, doesn't that imply the ones you forgot don't count? The other side wasn't buying it. Several states refused to approve the Constitution without a promise of rights in writing. So, a deal was struck. Ratify now. Add the rights immediately. James Madison, who'd once doubted the whole idea, drafted them. And in 1791, they became the first 10 amendments. The Bill of Rights. So, what is it really? Here's the key to understanding the whole thing. The Bill of Rights isn't a list of things you can do. It's a list of things the government is not allowed to do to you. Every single amendment is a limit, a leash on government power. Keep that in your head as we go. 10 limits. Let's walk through them. The First Amendment is the famous one, and it's actually 5 freedoms packed into one. Religion. You can believe what you want, and the government can't establish an official one. Speech. You can say it. Press. You can print it. Assembly. You can gather. And petition. You can complain to your government and demand change. 5 freedoms. 1 amendment. It's the backbone of the whole document. But here's the single most misunderstood thing in the entire Bill of Rights. The First Amendment only stops the government. It's a leash on the government, not on your neighbor, not on your boss, not on a company. If a private website deletes your post, or an employer fires you for what you said, that is not a First Amendment violation. Free speech means the government can't jail you for your words. It does not mean a private company has to give you a megaphone. Get that one right, and you're ahead of half the internet. The Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms. Its exact wording ties that right to a well-regulated militia, and what that phrase means for modern gun laws is one of the most litigated questions in all of constitutional law. We're not here to argue the policy, just to be clear on what the text says, and that its scope is still fiercely debated in the courts. The Third Amendment is the one nobody thinks about. It says that in peacetime, the government can't force you to house soldiers in your home without your consent. It was a huge deal in 1791. Today it's basically never used, but it's a window into how personal these fears were. The Fourth Amendment is very much alive. It protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. In plain English, the government generally can't search you, your home, or your phone without a good reason, and usually a warrant from a judge. The Fifth Amendment is a powerhouse. It packs in several protections. It guarantees due process. The government has to follow fair procedures before it takes your life, your freedom, or your property. It bans double jeopardy. You can't be tried twice for the same crime. It's where pleading the Fifth comes from. You can't be forced to be a witness against yourself. And it says, if the government takes your property for public use, it has to pay you for it. The Sixth Amendment is your rights if you're actually accused of a crime, a speedy public trial, an impartial jury, the right to know the charges, the right to confront the witnesses against you, and the right to a lawyer, even if you can't afford one. The Seventh extends the right to a jury into civil cases, the lawsuits between people over money and contracts, not just criminal trials. The Eighth Amendment is short and sharp, no cruel and unusual punishments, and no excessive bail or fines. Like a lot of the Bill of Rights, the words are simple. What counts as cruel and unusual is something the courts are still working out, case by case. Now, the 2 amendments almost nobody can name, and they're brilliant. Remember the Federalists' fear? That listing some rights would imply the unlisted ones don't exist? The Ninth Amendment answers it directly. It's the "and everything else" clause. It says just because a right isn't written down here doesn't mean you don't have it. It's a deliberate catch-all built to keep the list from becoming a cage. The 10th Amendment does the same trick, but for power. It says any power the Constitution didn't hand to the federal government is reserved for the states, or for the people. If that sounds familiar, it's the seed of federalism. The whole tug-of-war between Washington and the states starts right here. But here's the twist that changes everything. For most of American history, the Bill of Rights only limited the federal government. Read that again. Your own state could ignore most of it. A state could restrict your speech or skip your right to a lawyer, and the Bill of Rights had nothing to say about it. For the first century and a half, these famous protections stopped at the national government's door. So, what changed? The 14th Amendment, passed after the Civil War. Over the last century, the Supreme Court used it to slowly apply most of the Bill of Rights to the states too. One right at a time. Think of it as a switch being flipped, one amendment at a time, until nearly all of them lit up at every level of government. It's why your local police need a warrant. That protection only reaches your city because of incorporation. So, let's be clear about the limits. The Bill of Rights restrains the government. It does not police private companies, private people, or your workplace. And none of these rights are unlimited. Free speech doesn't cover fraud or true threats. The right to bear arms hasn't stopped every gun law. Every right has edges the courts are constantly defining. It's a list of powerful limits on government, not a magic shield that wins every argument. So, let's pull it together. 10 amendments, almost left out of the Constitution entirely, added as the price of getting it approved. The first protects your voice. The 4th and 5th protect you from the government's power. The 6th and 7th protect you in court. The 9th says the list isn't the whole story. The 10th guards the states. And a switch called incorporation is what finally made most of them apply everywhere. The Bill of Rights isn't a list of what you can do. It's a list of what the government can't do to you. And now you know what you actually get.